Hello everyone, this is a video about pre-reading academic articles, and this is an academic article. As you can see, it's pretty long, it's pretty complicated, and it might be kind of boring. If you're not familiar with these types of texts, or if you haven't read a lot of them in the past, they can be quite overwhelming. However, by the time you finish watching this video, you will know how to read academic articles more effectively through a strategy called pre-reading. And this strategy will help you to analyze, evaluate, and understand complex academic texts. When you start reading an academic article, do you just start at the beginning and keep reading until you get to the end? How well does this usually work for you? Do you ever get confused? The first thing to know is that reading an academic article is not like reading a novel. You don't just start at the beginning and keep reading until you get to the end. Let's do an experiment to figure out why. At this point, please pause the video and take a few seconds to read this paragraph. Now, you probably understand most of the words in this passage, but do you have any idea what this paragraph is talking about? Okay, so what if I ask you to pause the video again and read it once more, but this time I'll give you a picture. Does it make sense now? The point of this experiment is that in order to understand anything you're reading, you need to understand the context of the passage. Even if you understand all the words in this paragraph, they don't make any sense unless you have the whole picture, unless you understand the context. In the same way, an academic article is not going to make any sense to you unless you understand its surrounding context, unless you have the background information to see its whole picture. And the best way to understand an article's context is to pre-read it. The first thing you do when pre-reading is you try to figure out the audience for the text. Understanding who the audience expects to be reading an article will help you to understand his writing style and purpose. You can figure out the audience for an article by looking at the name of the journal in which the article is published. For example, this article is published in the Journal of Computing in Higher Education. Who do you think reads this journal? Who are the authors writing this article for? The next step in pre-reading is to learn more about the authors of the article. Sometimes, to find out more about the author's background and research interest, I even Google them. Now that we know more about the audience and the authors, let's look at the article's title. Before I ever start reading an article, I always make sure that I understand all the words and phrases in the title. Sometimes I use Wikipedia to help me understand a new term, like structural equation modeling. Now that we understand more about the audience, authors, and title of the article, we are ready for skimming the article, or looking through the entire text very quickly. Remember, academic articles are not novels, so you don't have to avoid spoilers. In other words, it's okay to look ahead to the end. When skimming an article, we should look for any headings, charts, tables, graphs, and even references to get a general sense of the article's organization and purpose. What do you notice about this article as we skim through it? Do you have a better idea of its context? Now that pre-reading has helped us to understand this article's audience, authors, topic, and organization, we understand its context, or the big picture behind it. This means we are ready to read and understand it with confidence.